It's 2 o'clock. I will call the December Executive and Finance Standing Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Caro.
Here.
Manning.
Here.
Gill.
Here.
Glassburner. Here. Turk.
Here.
Frank. Williams.
Here, online.
Oh. Welcome, Bob. Wow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Here. Williamson.
Here.
And Cooey.
Okay. Okay, verification of open meetings law compliance, everything was posted correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Agenda approval, 18-point agenda, looking for agenda approval. Mr. Manning, seconded by Mr. Carroll. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed to approving the agenda? All right. Moving on to item number 5, minutes from our November 12th meeting. Any corrections, additions, comments? If not, I would approve them as presented in our packet. Any public comment? Nobody here for public comment. Anybody online for public comment? Are all of them on, or is that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's go to reports. Item number 7, radio tower project update. Item 7.
Can you give me one moment? I've got to call Mike. He's not on yet.
Okay?
Oh, that is on.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm going to say he's on.
And Mr. Cooey is here.
Need it in there.
Mike, Dave, do you want to go ahead?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay, would you like me to share some of the information that was passed out, or?
I've got this up for, you can take over and share what you like if you'd rather.
Oh, perfect. I'll try. Okay, I guess I'll start with just kind of the update on the project. I guess we'll start with the bad news, I guess I'll call it. Because normally at this juncture in a project, in these projects, you're not still dealing with site acquisitions. Richland County has ran into some issues, not uncommon, but I think we've ran into more than our share of the issues. So the project, the site acquisition piece, we've got one site that was a landowner who negotiated with us, but in the end kind of changed their mind on it. So that was that is the Quarry Road location, and now we're underway trying to work with a neighbor there. And then we've got 2 sites, Richland Center and Boaz, which we're still working with to finalize with U.S. Cellular, and so very key to the project, but again, just kind of at the mercy of the business, the United States Cellular, and waiting for their processes, which haven't moved very quickly. So unfortunately, as I said, site acquisition is normally something that we're already past at this point. I mean, to be honest with you, if we'd had these things fall into place probably back in August, July, we wouldn't even be discussing them. But we hope we're close for getting signatures on the U.S. Cellular piece. We are trying to work, or we are working. The county's civil contractor is working a little bit on the Richland Center site because it's on an adjacent piece of ground that belongs to the city. So that's not holding us up too much. We really can't do anything on Boaz or anything on Quarry Road until we get either a contract there at Boaz or the landowner's permission at Quarry Road or through the next regulatory piece at Quarry Road. So that's the bad news. Piece of it going down. I guess, yeah, we certainly are trying to work to get these things finalized, but there is a little bit of time delays there. Moving down to the radio vendor piece, our radio vendor is somewhat in a hold pattern right now because of the site acquisition, especially the Yuba site with some FCC work, but otherwise, they're really waiting for the end of our civil work, and so they've got equipment in their warehouses and are ready to do some more, but we're not really holding them up too much other than the FCC licensing piece, and so we hope to kind of get over that hurdle here even next week and get them released, but they'll still have ample time to get through that. So that's where they're at. And then on down to civil vendor updates. We've got some good progress there. We've got some towers going in the air. We've got foundations in the ground. We've got one more we're trying to finish the tower foundation. And we've got some shelters that are under construction. So again, the biggest concern here now, again, we've got progress everywhere except for our sites that we haven't got under control. But our vendor, our contractor there is going to be eventually, just at the mercy of weather. But they are working hard when they get some breaks in this weather or when it stays warm. And so we're making pretty good progress on the actual construction work of the sites, the civil pieces. We've got generators delivered last week, so we're confident we've got just about everything in county as far as equipment-wise, with the exception of the Yuba site tower, which again is not necessarily even something that we can move forward on at this point. So we hope with the civil contractor to kind of keep things moving, but we also hope for a mild winter to make that happen. And then our goal is to potentially have those sites in good shape so that when better weather breaks in the spring, we get to start putting antenna lines on the tower, which will be the next step for the radio vendor there. So right now, best guess, we do have the challenge with the other site that's got to go through regulatory again, but we're shooting for potentially there could be the potential here because of these delays that the system starts to come up in pieces, because remember, this is a 9-site system, but they all work together, and during like a failure, if you lose a site, you still got 8 sites which provide much better coverage than what you have today. So it might be a case where we make a plan to try and bring this system online once we have most of the sites there and stragglers. And right now, my best guess is that's maybe June or July at the earliest. So that's kind of the briefing on the progress of the project. I don't know if there's any questions there.
My June or July is for completion, but we would be able to use part of it before then. Is that correct?
Right. That would be what we're going to try and plan here, beginning in the first of the year when we start to understand some of this, and we would hope that we could bring something online even earlier than that. The biggest concern for that would be to kind of get our sites acquired. The Richland Center site is really key to the whole system, since it is the central location of the system.
Mike, Supervisor Steve Carroll's got a question.
Okay.
Yeah, and the schedule question, you're estimating June 1st as system turn up date. Could you define that? I don't know what that is.
I think I heard that. June 1st as a turn-up date?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was, mentioning, that if we can get some sites on the air, if we can create a working system, it's going to be something we'll have to figure out. Is it something that county could, potentially begin to migrate to, and then be able to migrate users to that, because it's going to work so much better than what you're on today, and how we go about doing that. You're going to have a new system here with multiple channels, so we're going to go from 2 to 4, and so in reality you could begin to bring up pieces of the system, and then ultimately even test it later on, and do a lot of the processes that we would normally do after the whole system's complete. So again, trying to lean into keeping things moving and making progress, with these challenges that we've been presented.
So turn up date means partial functional system?
Correct, yeah.
Another question.
Go ahead, Mr. Carroll.
Another question, the civil timeline, the separate file that we have on our, those dates, I'm assuming are not correct now? They show an engineering contract closeout of last month.
That was the original.
Yes, I did not present that one. I'm not sure. I think that's an older one, but yes, you are correct. That we are not going to be able to meet that timeline because, again, there are a couple of sites that the civil contractor hasn't even been allowed to work on.
So I'm requesting that we get an updated schedule, please.
Okay, we'll do, yes.
It's in here, isn't it?
No, it's not. I haven't
I
seen it.
didn't
No.
see one.
All right,
There's some dates in that general updates one, but it's not.
yeah. This is good.
We've got a working Excel schedule from the civil contractor, so we can get you a copy of that.
Thank you.
We got another question from Supervisor Gary Manning.
Yes, it just seems like one of the very first steps would have been making sure we own the property, have under contract. I'm just surprised we're still dealing with that.
And to tag on with that, Mike, too, this is the first that I've heard that I thought we were told a while ago that US Cellular, everything had been settled, but we were told about the Yuba site last month, but go ahead.
Yes, so the Yuba site, you're right, I mean, the way that unfolded, we had a letter of intent with the landowner. We had just assumed it would be a simple signature process, and that's when the landowner started trying to ask for other things and really kind of failed to communicate with us. So the decision was made there to move on. With US Cellular, we believe that we've handed them everything, the Boaz site especially, but even really both sites for the county's purposes. And we are just waiting for them to return documents for signature. So we've tried, and I think we put as much pressure on them as we can. And so we don't understand what the holdup is on their end. They've been really slow throughout this whole process. We've already signed the one site up with them. So those could be settled in a matter of, you know, a day's work, you know, with our understanding anyway. So, not sure what else we can tell you, but we thankfully take anybody's ability to put some pressure on them, so.
Mike, it's Mike Wendell. I'm just going to jump in and add some detail fill in. So the Richland Center site, the tower is owned by US Cellular. The ground that the tower sits on is owned by the city of Richland Center. So we have been utilizing my dual role as the city and county attorney because they are trying to renegotiate a land lease with the city that is not due until 2026. And they made it clear early on that they were trying to tie the two together despite the county and city being separate entities. And so eventually the decision was made, and I communicated with Ashley representing the city and got permission to essentially reverse that on them and say, well, if you want this thing renegotiated, we really need, you know, better responsiveness on these other contracts that we're trying to get done. And it has just failed to move the needle on them. There's this poor woman, Kristen, is kind of stuck in the middle because she receives all the information from us, communicates with US Cellular, gets it back from them, and gets it back to her, us. And so we have been trying not to direct our frustration at her, but we really have limited leverage to force anything from them. And we, like Mike said, we've put all the pressure on them that I think we can.
Mike, that letter of intent gives us no legal resource at all.
That would be a closed session item. A letter of intent is a binding contract so long as it meets the three elements, so an offer, acceptance, and consideration. If I recall correctly, that was the case because there was some investment in planning for the site and development for the site. Ultimately, a decision would need to be made as to whether or not pursuing that is in the county's best interest. What happened there is the landowner contracted with like leasetowerspecialists.com or something like that. It's just one of those websites where they make it very, very clear that they're not attorneys, but surprise, surprise, they have all this boilerplate legal language that they're able to provide to you. And it was very clear that this is some guy out of Tennessee or Georgia, something like that, who negotiates with, you know, Verizon and US Cellular and big companies, and it's the corporate contract for another corporation. And it was just completely beyond what we needed or wanted, and there were just provisions that were completely unworkable. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but something along the lines of he reserved the right to force us to move the tower within 6 months of a request to anywhere else on his property.
Yeah, they had that language in there, which seems very odd.
Not feasible.
Certainly not language you could ever, you know, subscribe to.
So we made a fair attempt we informed him of the binding nature of the letter of intent and potential consequences should he fail to continue to negotiate in good faith. And I think there were some external pressures. I don't want to speculate. I haven't spoken with the gentleman, but that basically ended up not panning out.
Anybody else with questions for either Mike from the committee? If not, thank you, Mike, for the update. We'll stay tuned, I guess.
I don't know if you want me to touch on the financial side of it or not.
Yes.
Okay. Barb, do you have that Excel sheet document?
Yep, that one. Let me see if I can make this bigger for you all.
Okay, so really, we've done our best to update things here. You'll see the current column there. The contract for the radio vendors is, again, kind of, we've moved through 2 milestones, but we're kind of getting slowed down making payments there because of the the slowdown of their work, but no problems there at all. Professional services are moving forward under the contracts. We've had a recent adjustment there because of the small adjustment because of the additional site at Yuba, but no big surprises there. The civil contract is still as originally written. We haven't uncovered any change orders or anything yet there. Again, most of these things are things that we think about when we get down here to the contingency money. Some of these were budgeted at one time, now they're more locked in numbers. We would still carry a little bit of contingency there for that because we haven't dug all the holes yet and uncovered all the things, but our risk is getting a little less there as the civil contractor proceeds. The next row there is Richland County items. These are just a few items, different leases, initial lease payments, some utility construction work. So we've got a couple of those that have already come in, and we're starting to understand most of the sites there, what the utility contractors are going to need there. And so we kind of keep bumping that around, locking in numbers, taking away budget numbers when we can get our good firm numbers. And as you can see from the previous one, actually some of these things coming in has kind of made our contingency money grow a little bit out of that. We also moved some of the previously budgeted subscriber money around at the county's direction. And so even though we're sitting on about $675,000 in contingency money, we would still be concerned with that a dollar figure until we really get these 3 sites locked in. You know, that's, if we had to build a whole site, start over somewhere, we're talking about 400,000 or more. So again, that's a good number there. You've got some contingency money, plenty of money there. But until we really get these things locked down, I wouldn't recommend moving that around anywhere in the other projects. And then the last piece is the security project, which I think is on track to hopefully finish up by the end of the year here. But as you can see, we're just holding our original budget number there. And again, we've got the contingency, but no recommendations for doing anything just yet from me anyway. So any questions on that document?
Looks like we're good, Mike.
Yeah, we're still comfortable, so hopefully we can get a few more things locked down, and then you guys can decide where to go with everything, I guess. So,
Anything else you guys want Mike to discuss that's in the packet? Go over? I think we're good.
okay,
Barb, you're good?
thank you for your time.
You bet, thank you for the update.
All right.
Anything else, Barb?
No.
Okay. Veterans Affairs Service Officer update.
Good afternoon. So I just wanted to make you aware of the fact, based on the form that's on the projector, is we have used this program 3 times in the past. This will be our 4th person. The program temporarily suspended during COVID, and so they've brought it back, and so we're going to be utilizing it again. Basically, it's a person over the age of 55 that is trying to re-enter the workplace by learning new skills. We've got roughly about 3 people that we're considering for the position. This is absolutely, there is no cost to the county. The person will have no access to files or computers. Their only task will be the door and the telephone. And so I was just wanting to make sure that you guys were aware of it and see if you had any questions. Attorney Wendell has blessed this contract as well. Yes?
Mr. Carroll, go ahead.
Sounds great. Dumb question though, what does SER stand for?
It's seniors re-entry into the workplace. I can't remember.
Senior Community Service Employment Program.
Thank you.
That's SCS,
No, that's the SEP. What does SER stand for?
Seniors entering,
Employment program?
yes, employment program, basically.
Okay, thanks.
And like I said, we've successfully utilized this 3 times in the past, starting in 2015. And so just, we're going to be utilizing it again. And ask if you guys had any other questions?
Everybody good? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, number 8, notification of public comment period for Richland County Comprehensive Plan, number 8.
All right, good afternoon.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry I couldn't be there in person today, but in your packet you'll see a memo. Since the last time that I spoke with you all, we've conducted the engagement with local leaders at the village, town, city, and county level, and we've completed the plan. So it's now open for public comment. It was posted yesterday in the Richland Observer. It has been mailed to all NR 135 operators in the county, as well as the Brewer Public Library, as noted in the public notice. The clerk's office also has a physical copy that they printed, and it is available on the Richland County website, as well as our website. And all comments are to be directed to myself. I've got my phone number on there, as well as my email. Some key takeaways. We hosted an open house for townships to come in and discuss their future land use maps. There are 12, as you know, under the county zoning. We had Kathy Cooper and one of her technicians there to answer any questions. And we had decent turnout. Some towns noted that they were not going to be recommending any changes to their future land use, so we kept existing zoning or existing land use as their maps. But I've already had some towns reach out to me to make some changes there, so our GIS team is working on that. Really, the plan is broken up in 2 main sections: the existing conditions, which is the beginning of the plan, which takes influence from previously adopted plans that are relevant to the county. And then the 3 main sections that were influenced by our engagement with local leaders, which was the economic development, intergovernmental cooperation, and land use sections. And so we've outlined strategies and actions for the county there. So I will be in person at the January 14th executive committee meeting, where we'll have the public hearing. That's all that I have for you. Like I said, it's in your packet. You can find it online. Are there any questions at this time?
Mr. Steve Carroll for you.
The notice is on the county website, but I couldn't get the actual comprehensive plan to show up. I wondered when that was going to actually be online.
It's in your packet.
I will double check with Miranda since Derek is out, but Derek notified me that he had uploaded it.
It's in your packet.
Yeah, but just for the general public.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be on the county website, though, and it's not.
Oh, it didn't show up there yet. Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Good. I've got another question. Supervisor Ingrid, glass spreader.
Not a question, just a comment. On the second page of the document, my name is misspelled. But my glass spreader only has 1 S.
Thank you very much. Apologies.
No problem.
Anybody else? Mr. Mark Gill.
Yeah, there's an acronym ADU in there, and I'm trying to locate it. I'm not sure what that stood for. ADU.
That is Accessible Dwelling Unit, and we pulled that from the Richland County Housing Study, where it was accurately and properly laid out without the acronym. So I will go ahead and make that amendment. I'll amend that.
Accessory.
Thank you.
What's that?
Accessory.
Accessory dwelling unit.
Okay.
Good. Anything else for Dan? Like he said, he'll be here on January 14th. We'll be holding a public meeting, hearing.
I just want to comment, I really like the way that it's laid out. I think you guys did a great job.
Impressive.
Thanks for your hard work.
Yeah, thank you. We worked with Krista Mitchell Design in Mineral Point, and I think that we were on the same page, and it turned out really, really great visually.
If no other questions, we will move on. Thanks, Dan. We'll see you next month. Item 9, discussion, possible action, resolution establishing a policy for the expenditure of remaining funds from American Rescue Plan Act funds, ARPA funds. Item 9, is that Larry?
That's me. This is a resolution to obligate the remaining ARPA funds. We have about $835,000 of ARPA funds that are remaining, and we have to obligate that remaining balance by the end of the year, or we have to remit that back to the government. So we have to obligate it by the end of the year, and we have to spend it by 2026, 12/31. In the past, we've apportioned it, appropriated it, we have not obligated it. The difference is that an obligation has a contractual obligation behind it. That's why we are trying to use the Highway O contract in order to obligate the last $800,000, because there's a contractual obligation behind the Highway O project to obligate that property, or obligate that amount of money. And we have, as you can see, we start out with a total balance of $825,000. That's what we have left of our ARPA money, less bills that we still have outstanding, about $285,000. That's our net balance that we still have of the ARPA funds of $549,000. We added back the interest that we earned on those ARPA money, and that gives us a total balance to obligate of about $746,000.
Questions on that? Supervisor Carroll?
So make sure I understand this. So that means we had some things we initially thought we would apply that money to, but we won't be able to obligate them by the end of the year, so we're switching over to doing it on County Highway O?
Correct.
So what things had we initially thought we could apply it to that are now going to have to be funded another way?
Some things like the historical roof project, if you
We
did
didn't
that.
spend it. So it's not that we didn't allocate, it's just that we didn't need the money for those things. So there's another sheet in your packet. So there is the roof project, there is the ditch project. So those were things that you had originally allocated funds for.
Should be one more.
And those funds were not necessary. And so for some reason, it's in the online version, but we're not seeing it here as far as the listing, but you guys have it.
The 9B ARPA funds summary,
It's in
right?
your,
So rather
Like
than,
that.
so what it sounds like then is it's those items that came in under what we had allocated.
either under or we didn't need
Yeah.
to spend them because
Okay.
other funds came into play. Like the
Got it.
ditch project was federally funded, so we
Okay.
didn't have to spend that money. There are, in one of the columns here, you'll see too that there are balances left over because maybe it didn't cost as much as we thought it was going to. And that's also where you're going to see the outstanding bills. We had allocated initial amounts of money for various items there, and those bills are still yet to come in. So all of that is tracked here. And what has happened is in highway, that's a lot of money that they're putting out front to wait for reimbursements to come back. And so this way we can go ahead and, make them whole while we're waiting for those reimbursements to come back in.
So when those reimbursements come back in, then what will would that money go back then to?
If that's what the board's wishes are, we can reallocate those funds to go back into the county coffers.
Okay.
Yes. Josh?
A lot of those expenditures that we put out, those aren't part of the reimbursement, so those show as negative balances on us, which affects our fund balance. So this is, again, like Candace would state, to make us whole, because some of those expenditures do not qualify for reimbursement on these projects, like the ARC recovery and so on and so forth. at last night's public work meeting, I introduced the last couple months' worth of bills, and we had several $100,000 that we paid out in our recovery, which we were mandated to, legally we had to, but those are balances we had to carry on, and that's a couple $100,000 just in that cost, not to mention the remaining of the engineering and land purchase and so on and so forth.
So those couple $100,000 are not going to be reimbursed, or they will be, but later?
Those will not be reimbursed, so
Okay.
again, this is to offset our costs.
Okay.
And
What
Josh
if
is
we- I'm
still
sorry.
pursuing some opportunities. There are potential funds that may come back into play, but they're not 110% sure yet. And that's another reason why we're kind of doing this now, is we know we have the funds to take that burden off of highways budget now. And so if the reimbursement doesn't come back in, then it's not affecting levy and other operations and taking money away from other projects.
Has this, I mean, is this something that's been happening every
For
year?
20 years.
So how has it been dealt with before?
We've paid for everything with our revenues and then project costs, as we estimate out of our budget per year. But right at the end game, just before it goes construction, where all the big costs are coming in, we're covering them, but again, these are showing as a negative on our balances, so this money is to be used to make it whole as a qualifying expenditure.
Give them a little more history on it, Josh. If we would have backed out of the project, it would have cost, I mean, Mark and Gary were on the committee when we talked about it, but what would it cost the county?
$500,000 just in engineering costs, plus land that they had originally purchased for the project, and then other engineering costs that were not covered at the time.
So we could have been approaching probably $750,000 roughly, but luckily, I mean, we had some help with DOT and Mark Line, and but we knew going into this that we were gonna have costs that we're not gonna get reimbursed.
Correct.
The archaeological stuff had been done once, but, oh no, it might have changed, so we have to do it again.
So back to what Steve had asked, so bottom line, there wasn't like there were any projects that we weren't able to fund. We were just wound up with this amount of money that we can
Right.
allocate to this.
It wasn't that we weren't able to fund them, it was just that the money wasn't necessary.
Necessary, right,
It was
okay.
allocated, then other funding came into play, so we didn't need to, expend those funds for those reasons.
Got it.
Could we have used the ARPA funds for like refurbishment at the campus, some of the campus buildings, or is that something?
We have utilized some of the
Okay,
ARPA
some
funds
of it.
towards the engineering, the venture. Yeah, the study.
Okay, venture.
Yep. Yep.
Any other questions for Larry? Otherwise, I think our action item is to, where'd it go here, 9?
So we just have to pass, or make the resolution.
Yes.
Just to approve.
A motion to approve the resolution as presented by Mr. Supervisor Gill, seconded by Mr. Cooey. Any further discussion on the resolution to obligate the remaining ARPA dollars? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you on that. Let's move on to item 10. Item 10, discussion, possible action approval of letter of engagement from Johnson & Block for our audit services.
Okay, as you all know, Johnson & Block has done our audit for quite some time now. And so this is just the contract for the annual audit that we need performed.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Cooey, seconded by Williamson. All those in favor of...
Hold on.
Go ahead, discuss.
Anything changed in the contract versus previous years?
Not that I'm aware of, no. Same thing.
Further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of moving on with Johnson & Block as continuing to do our audit, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay.
I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Who seconded?
I did.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, you're good. Number 11, discussion, possible action on approval of contract with Festus.
Okay, Angie is otherwise engaged today because they are going live with their new software.
Okay.
So they are busy. So she asked me to present this on her behalf. For quite a while now, we've been kind of looking at costs for laundry. The original contract had been with gosh, who was it? What was their name, Mike? Aramark. There you go, I couldn't think of the name. Aramark. And when that contract was signed in the past, it was signed with no caps in place for cost. And they had been significantly year over year increasing these costs. So we decided to go out for bid for a 1-year term. Angie recommended, because she is also having she and Justin are working together to analyze what it would cost to bring laundry back in-house. Because the costs are fairly significant, as you see, and if we could do it cheaper in-house, we should explore that option. So that is ongoing, but in the meantime, she put out for 1-year contract quotes, and these are the 3 that she received. Bandbox at $152,000, almost $153,000. Vesti is Aramark, it's just been bought out, and it's Vesti or Vestis? It might just be a typo there that we have to fix. At $80,000, and then in-house right now, annually, $97,000. So she's asking for a 1-year contract with Vestis to be approved for laundry services.
I ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Let's get it on the floor. Motion by Cooley, seconded by Supervisor Gill. Now we're on the floor.
So I'm just curious if, I would imagine they did a little bit of research on customer satisfaction with it. The only reason I ask is from previous jobs that I've worked and the issues that we've had with various laundry services. So I'm just curious, is this a well-known company, or they have good?
Aramark, yeah, a lot of people use Aramark.
But you said they were being used before, and that was...
It's the same company.
Yeah,
It's
wow.
just, we went out for bid because that contract had us locked into all of these escalation in costs.
So this is not, it'll not have that anymore, I'm
Correct.
assuming? Was there any other issues besides the cost with that particular company?
No, not at all. They didn't have any complaints about the service, but it was the cost factor. And this is another opportunity. The other thing we're looking at is Aramark is used in various other areas of the county. So again, this will give us time to maximize the benefit. We know Randy uses them for some things. We know Josh uses them for some things. And so that way we could, look at streamlining that cost and roll everything all into one contract and then just parse out what those costs would look like by department. So it's another way to potentially create some efficiency long-term if Pine Valley decides to stay doing that and not go in-house. So there are just some decisions and some exploration that needs to happen.
Supervisor Carroll.
I want to make sure I understand this. Vestis is essentially the same company, Aramark, which we have used in the past.
Yes.
And so their quote now is $80,000. What were they charging us before as Aramark?
160.
It was almost double.
Kind of like Bandbox's quote.
Yeah, I think it was even higher, potentially.
Mark, who you guys use?
Cintas.
And Cintas didn't quote.
Yep.
She reached out to them and they didn't quote for her.
They're more uniform
Yeah.
oriented.
There were 2 companies that she couldn't get quotes from. She tried, but this is what she could get.
They wouldn't be any, they're all gonna be about the same. I mean, when it comes
It
down
just
to
sounds
it.
like we were being taken to the cleaners.
We were.
And that's exactly what they do.
And, well,
If you know what,
If you allow it, that's exactly what
we
they
use
do.
Cintas. Oh, they changed their schedule from Monday to Friday. We're not open on Fridays. I still get billed.
No.
They did not bring me rugs. I still get billed.
so I will tell you, this is another finding of things that kind of were going on. Pine Valley was not always bringing contracts forward for review from corporate counsel or from the board. And so this is yet another example of something was just signed without real proper vetting and proper eyes on it, and those costs escalated year over year over year.
The procurement policy would take care of that, right?
Well, we have one now.
Really?
Yeah.
The only concern would be what we're going to get now versus what we were getting. So in them other instances, like, so they talk to somebody and they say, well, this would be nice to have. Oh, okay. And we do, you know what I mean? So this might, what we get now might be much different than what we were getting. That's be the only watch out I would have. Just because you don't know what they were adding on
just in communication, that's why it might have been 160,000, because there was no limit to what there was.
I think it was more likely that they did what companies do and exploited our failure to properly review the contract and just continued increasing the cost. One thing I should make clear, again, we're pursuing a one-year contract, so it wouldn't necessarily affect this. There is a price increase written into this contract of either the CPI for the last year or 5%, whichever is greater. So it's not like there's no increase written into these, but again, it was, I did look it up, and according to Angie, it was $168,000 we were paying for this.
Mr. Carroll.
But to Mark's point, the scope of services they're supplying was 80,000. It's the same as we were getting before, or not?
The understanding, if it's not, then certainly the committee and the board will need to evaluate the economic benefits of having someone not only in-house but in the county, who's maybe it's costing a little more, but are there other benefits to having someone doing it in-house that are not necessarily reflected in the hard numbers?
I get that, but to Mark's point, there may have been some add-on things that Plain Valley felt they wanted, and they're happy with the scope as it's been quoted to Vestas?
Yes, this was the RFP that Angie put together.
Okay, all right. Yep.
If there's add-ons now, wouldn't it go through Kansas though?
Well, no, because depending on what it is, how much it is, you know, the procurement policy outlines specific things, and if it's something that's already in the budget even, if it goes above a certain cost, it still needs to come up through the board. So it would depend.
Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, this might seem a little bit like splitting hairs. The only thing is I see in the contract, it talks about they'll replace if things are worn out, etc. If it's due to Pine Valley's treatment of the stuff and they're not gonna replace it. This seems a little silly, but I don't see anything in there about if stuff is lost in transport or when they're cleaning it, because I know from experience that has happened before, where you're sending stuff and then, I don't know. I don't know if that's been an issue before as far as like laundry getting lost or anything like that. I think that's kind of what, like, I would say to what they're saying, you know, let's say you're sending loads of laundry, you're not getting back, you know, suddenly there's not 10 twin sheets, and then they say, well, that was on your end, not our end. You know what I'm saying?
I can't speak to that.
Okay. Well, that's why I asked about their track record, because
Which provision are you looking at?
I'm looking at the contract. It
Right.
talks about it in the bottom.
There's a lot of bottom.
What? I only see two. Oh, okay. I guess I'm looking at the top parts of the page, and it
Are you
says,
on the,
rented and leased merchandise that is lost or ruined will be promptly paid for by customer at the then current replacement charge.
okay, and
Merchandise ruined through normal wear and tear will be replaced without additional replacement charge. My only point for bringing this up, I'm sure Angie did her homework, was that sometimes you get varying quality of laundry services, and that's why I was asking about Vestas. Like, have they had, I know they bought out this other place, so I don't know if they're brand new.
No, they just took it over. The service provider is really the same. Nothing has changed, they just bought it out. So it's just like a corporate takeover type situation. They just buy it out, it's the same people.
So we don't
same
have any
service,
idea then if it will
same-
change that.
Right. At this point, we don't, unless they start making changes and do different things that, you know, and there's no way to anticipate that with them just taking over. But
Got it.
historically, they've been happy with this service. They have not had any of the issues that you're discussing, or otherwise, yeah, I don't believe Angie would have wanted to recontract with.
Well, and even at that, with 80,000 being about half of what they were paying,
Right.
there'd have to be a
Well,
lot of.
And we do
laundry.
have, I mean, and this is one thing that we're weighing in this whole discussion is we do have a lot of our own textiles because we used to do it in-house and then we stopped. And so, again, that's kind of part of, then we wouldn't have to worry about some of these kind of nuances if we're just doing it in-house. But again, it has to make sense on a number of fronts before we go down that road. And this will give us the time to properly
It
evaluate.
would be interesting then in a year, you know, to see how much that cost increased, if there were a lot of damages, that kind of thing, compared to what would be in-house. I mean, obviously, you're still gonna have to cover those, but Yeah, like you said, you don't have to worry about missing laundry and those kinds of things when it's literally within house.
But I think there'd be a huge startup cost.
Oh my lord, $30,000 washing machine.
Well, not just the equipment, I mean, you
How
gotta
long has
buy
it
all
been
the,
since they did it?
you've gotta buy all this. This is rental stuff, right? All this stuff is rental now, and if you go in-house, you gotta purchase that.
We have a lot of it,
Yeah,
That's
but
what
I
she was
mean,
saying.
you're gonna purchase a lot too,
yeah.
is all I would say. I mean,
How long has it been since
don't
they
you
did
lose
it?
sight of the startup cost.
Like they don't have any equipment at
I
this
think
point?
since the old building.
Oh, okay.
I think when they moved out of the old building, they did have a couple of washing machines, but yeah, no, then they,
Okay.
apparently, they just stopped doing the laundry service, and I can't explain the whole
I think
history.
that's happened since I've been on the board, because originally we were doing it.
So even in the new
new
building?
building, and then it got to the point
Okay.
where, I think it come down to a labor thing, is they couldn't manage the
It could've
labor.
been.
We've had
Yeah,
that
and we may have more
Yeah.
sheets and stuff, we think, but
Well, that trailer is full of them.
Because we have all
Hopefully they're in
this-
jobs that
We
have
have all
to
the
be by
equipment
mice
in
and
the
rats.
hospital to do it in-house. They can't, we don't have the staff. So now we're doing some in-house and some out-of-house.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, the contract for a year is good, it's
Yeah.
half price, so see what.
Well, that'll give them time to evaluate wash machine, sheet costs,
Yep.
labor costs, I mean, it'll be a lead.
All
Mr.
right.
Gill.
Who monitors the billing? Who's checking to make sure that they're honoring the contract and not getting, it sounds like they're increasing prices, on a regular basis. So whose job is it to say, oh, wait a minute, this is not per the contract?
That would be the administrator at Pine Valley.
So that's going to be, Andy's going to have to check on, make sure that they're adhering to the contract.
That's what I'm getting done before.
And they have a business and financial services manager out there as well, so that if something increases substantially, they would potentially notice that and say, whoa, 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 we paid this last month and it was this, why is it doing this?
Well, we're cutting it in half. I mean, to me, there's, I'm looking at the fine print, how
Yeah.
are they doing that? Why?
Hopefully the service, I agree with Ingrid, that hopefully our service doesn't go in half, but I know how that happens. Oh, it'd be nice, the guy's in there delivering the sheets, it'd be nice to have fleece sheets. Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Bing, there goes the price.
And if it's open-ended, they just, because them guys are on commission. So if they get, it's in their best interest to ask you to buy more, right? So
Sure.
if you had an open-ended contract, I could see how a lot of that could happen. And plus, you don't know how much gets destroyed.
That's what I was
Just
saying.
things happen, you know what I mean, whatever, so. I think it's great the way it is, and hopefully it stays that way. That's the way it is.
And that's why I was asking, because there's just so much that goes missing in the hospital. And suddenly, it's like, oh, now we're having to buy multiple more textiles.
Yeah, they were marked down at the bar. Couldn't believe how many towels and stuff.
All right, we beat that one enough. Are we good with,
Yeah. Okay.
all those in favor of giving this, letting Andy try this for a year, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. There's a few things to change on that. Number 12, county treasurer appointment. Update on that.
Okay, so as you all know, Jeffrey won the election and will not be returning as county treasurer. So there is a process that has to be followed again to appoint a new county treasurer. Obviously, we have Ashley in there now currently. Michael, you want to give your update a little bit on what you and Derek determined?
Yeah, do we know if we got anything?
We did not, as far as I know, unless it went to Derek's email.
Okay. So the legislature contemplated temporal mechanics in writing the law regarding vacancies, which actually worked to our benefit for once. So there now exists there will exist a vacancy in the position of treasurer for Richland County beginning in January 6th of 2025. That vacancy will exist as soon as we get documentation from Jeffrey indicating that he is declining the position, at which point the board will be able to either reappoint Ashley for a full term or appoint another if there's any interest in doing that.
Or a special election.
Or have a special election.
Which would cost a lot of money and take a lot of time.
But it's possible.
It is possible.
So there was concern because we couldn't fill a vacancy that didn't exist yet. But fortunately, like I said, the legislature wrote the law in such a way that they are contemplating a scenario where someone wins an election but does not yet, but is not going to be taking a role and not leaving us in the lurch during that time.
And the vacancy is posted up on the county website at this point, so Derek has initiated those pieces that need to happen to ensure proper notice and all of those things, so that we don't go and have a gap, because we cannot be without a county treasurer. That's a violation of statute. So.
But the issue would be if we don't appoint at the next county board meeting, we will need to hold a special session to appoint otherwise. So we're...
And does Jeffrey have a timeline that he has to fill that and have that into our office?
I don't know that he was given a specific deadline. He's very well aware of all of this. I know Derek's been in communication with him. I've spoken with him as well. We see him from time to time.
Right, and he may have sent the letter. Derek is on vacation right now. It may be sitting in his inbox and we just don't have that letter, but.
More to go.
Yep.
Mr. Gill.
Has Jeffrey weighed in on Ashley Mott's performance as interim treasurer?
Not that I'm aware of.
So are we going to get some kind of feedback on how she's done as interim treasurer, or, because we got a point.
Our administrator's observation of
Okay,
how things are running.
Do we want to discuss an employee's performance in open session?
Well, okay.
No, I'm just asking.
I'm just talking about what's the process that we're going to use then when we're appointing a new.
If there are suggestions for that, this would be the time. So right now, we have posted it. If we receive more than one applicant, we will let you know that, and you can choose whether to go through the same process you went through in appointing Ashley, or whether you want to choose a different process. But if there's something that didn't happen last time that you would like to see happen this time, speak now. Or
Well, it's different because we have somebody that's in an interim position, so we want to get feedback on how she's performed, basically.
Question timeline-wise, are we allowing enough time? Our next board meeting is Tuesday.
I was really hoping Jeff would have us in by now.
So we might have to contemplate a special session to act on this matter at some future date if we don't have everything. And my thought was, oh, does that leave enough time for people to apply, react to the posting we put out?
Exactly.
So there's no obligation for notice or publishing or anything like that to fill a vacancy like this. So we put it on the website just to avoid any, concerns that we weren't being fair and transparent about the process. But we didn't, for example, publish it in newspapers because, again, we are anticipating acting on this next week. So it wouldn't have been published in time, but.
Our understanding was that when you went through the process of appointing this treasurer, it was under the understanding that you knew you were going to have a vacancy in January and that this person would most likely continue in the role if they were performing well.
Which begs the question of
At this point, I can tell you I have absolutely no complaints. If you want anything further in depth, or if the board wishes me to do some sort of performance evaluation, please let me know that and I can have that prepared. I'd be happy to do that.
Mr. Cooley.
Just clarifying, she's in the position until January 6th right now.
Yes.
Correct.
So we just got to have a meeting before January 6th to appoint another treasurer.
And not to overly complicate it, but if it could be before January 3rd, that would be ideal.
Okay.
Because that's when Derek has worked with the judge to administer oaths of office.
And that's full board.
Understood.
Yes,
That's the full board?
full board. Yep. The county board must appoint.
So it'll either be next week or a special meeting then.
Yeah.
So we're sure hoping she works out, because if she doesn't, it's going to leave us in a bad position.
She is wonderful.
Mr. Carroll.
Who's gonna light a fire under Jeffrey then?
So before I leave to pick my daughter up, or sometime before the end of the weekend, I will provide a draft document with a signature line. I know that Jeff still comes in
Well,
from time
and
to time.
again, it may be in Derek's inbox.
Yeah.
He's on vacation, so I don't know. If he sent it directly to the clerk, which is proper, we just don't know it. at this
Eric is
point.
back Tuesday morning?
He is back Sunday evening. He
Sunday.
will be into work for a little while on Monday morning.
And Miranda, you can't get into Derek's email?
No,
Okay.
I'm not.
Doesn't forward
Barb.
anything?
Nothing
Related
can
forward
if I'm
stuff?
requested by the county administrator.
Oh, did you hear that?
I don't think it needs to go further.
It's
I mean, in my opinion, a simple
While
call
you
to
were
Jeffrey
gone.
would, hey Jeffrey, did you fill this out?
I'll text you right now.
I just realized I don't know how to get a hold of him.
Special measures. I have it on Messenger. I can,
Completely out of here.
No, I think we're thinking way too much into it.
I would agree.
All right, thank you for that. Anything else? We'll know more, we'll either be approving it next week, more than likely, it sounds like it. So, all right, we're ready for item 13, closed session. Entertain a motion to enter closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 19.815, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. County Administrator Annual Performance Review is what we're going to be going into. We can take a short recess. Anybody needs to go to the bathroom, let Mr. Perry pack up his items, and we're going to have everybody...
They have to vote. You have,
Yeah, we have to go.
Yeah. Oh, did somebody make a motion?
We did.
All right.
I'm sorry.
She
You
got
can
it.
choose whoever you want. Mark made the motion, I second it.
I was too busy reading the sentence.
first strike, Louise, everybody else.
Perfect.
All those in favor going into closed session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, unanimous vote to go into closed session.